Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video we're going to be going over Smoker, a leader from OPO2 that got a little bit of a revamp from the Starter Deck 19 that just recently came out. Now Smoker is a 5-life leader in black that says Don ×1, activate main once per turn, give up to one of your opponent's characters, -1 to their cost during this turn. Then, if there is a character with a cost of 0 in play, this leader gains plus 1000 power during this turn. So in the early stages of the game, you can use this effect to basically put one Don on the leader, and then -1 to a 1-cost character on the opponent's side of the field, usually a Searcher, and then swing for 7 for just 1 Don. The only other leader that has that type of efficiency really is Katakuri, and of course like 3-day 2Y Luffy from Starter Deck 14. However, this leader, the Smoker leader, it plays completely different than any other black leader, plays completely different than any other leader in the game, of course. And I think that this leader plays more of a control style build based around the Navy. However, you know, Lucci is going to be the primo control deck in black overall. Smoker, I think, is probably, I wouldn't say close to being as good as Lucci, but it's probably your second best bet if you're wanting to play a black leader in control. But before we go over the deck list, please make sure to drop a like and a sub. It helps out the channel immensely. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, please make sure to join the Discord. The link is in the description below. And finally, I opened up a Patreon this past week because I had a lot of people asking me about my tournament results with my Dofi leader for the Core TCG offline regional, and so I started a Patreon. It is a free article for you guys to check out, so please make sure to join that. Take a look. It is a free article for you guys to check out. Basically, it goes a little bit more in depth for my tournament run, what I came across, how I played the deck, and kind of the tech choices overall. So please make sure to check that out. Once again, it's free for you to sign up and check that article out. So starting off, I'm running 4 Brook, the 3-cost Brook from EBO1. This, I think, is probably a staple at 4 for most black decks going into the 8.5 Dofi meta, mostly because being able to subtract a cost from a 4-cost and gets... Mostly because minusing 1 to a 4-cost gets it within range of Jack or other KO abilities, which usually will be around 3. So the on-play and when attacking is give up to one of your opponent's characters cost -1 for this turn, then KO up to one of your opponent's 0-cost characters. Sometimes the 0-cost KO effect comes up. Other times, you're just trying to subtract and get opponents down, their cost down a little bit further to where you can KO it with other things. I'm running 2 T-Bone. This is a Navy 2K counter from EBO1 that says on play, KO up to one of your opponent's 2-cost or lower characters. You can use this as a KO effect. Otherwise, you're probably just using it as a 2K counter that can be brought back from the trash or retrieved from the trash with like a Rebecca. Running 2 Kobe, a Navy 3-cost 4000 power body from OPO2. It's an on-play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So yet again, we are trying to get some of these bodies that are maybe around 4 down to 3 costs, so you can use your leader ability, you can use the Brook, and then play a Kobe and be able to KO something that a Dofi played that turn. Obviously, subtracting a card from your hand in the process is not ideal, but, you know, KOing a body is still KOing a body, and we take that at the end of the day. Then I'm running 4 Suru, a Navy 2K counter that just says, when you play this card, reduce a opponent's character cost by -2. So you will be able to play this out for just 1, which is a great price overall, and then being able to subtract 2 from a character will help you get within range of KOing. It can be brought out with the Moria combo, which I think is probably one of your best bets to bring out with the Moria Rebecca, and being able to subtract -2 plus leader ability, minus another 1, and then whoever knows what else you could play, maybe like an Ice Age or whatever it is, to minus further. Running 2 Borsellino, a searchable Navy blocker that cannot be KO'd on your opponent's turn and gains 1000 power on defense. So very sticky, very annoying for Lucci to have to deal with, very annoying for other black decks to have to deal with. Just annoying for decks in general to have to deal with this card. And so I would run it at maybe more. However, the 4-cost blocker spot is taken up by, of course, Rebecca. So Rebecca is probably one of the best blockers in the game besides Sabo. And, you know, Borsellino used to be one of the best, but I think that over time he's been a little bit of power crept just because his only value is on defense, as opposed to Rebecca is a good defensive unit, can grab other things, can be very versatile in what you need. So Borsellino, we're running it at 2. Running 2 Isho, I think Isho is going to be a very much needed card in this meta going forward, and the reason why is because it's just a static -3 with 1 Dawn underneath it. So this will put a lot of your Doflamingo opponent's characters into range of being KO'd by just a simple Brook swing. And then if Isho sticks, which it often does, it's very, very much a hard unit to remove, 1, and then 2, being able to just swing usually 10 because you're putting 1 underneath the Isho will guarantee pretty much any body is going to be taken out by combat as well. The other thing here is that it is Navy, so it is searchable, which is really nice. And of course, I've been talking about we have been running a lot of Navy, and how are we searching it? Well, we're searching it with a brand new. This is a 2 cost. On play, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck, reveal it to 1 Navy type card other than brand new, add it to your hand, then trash the remaining cards. So you have a fair amount of targets in the Navy that you can find with this brand new. Otherwise, you are trashing everything else that you get, and you're okay trashing other things that are not Navy for the most part. Obviously, you don't want to be trashing your Gecko Morias, but other parts that you can trash would be like a Sabo, a Jack, a Brook, or whatever, and those are fine to be in the trash for the time being. Running 2 Sabo, I am questionable on running only 2 here. Usually I like to run 3, but I wanted to see more of a Navy build with this Smoker deck, and I think that, 2 should be okay. You can retrieve it with the Rebecca late game. If you have it early game, hold on to it and be able to play it down for, some cycle, or maybe if you need to prevent something from being KO'd, Sabo is really good here. I am a little bit wary about running it at 2. You might want to bump it up a little bit, but I think 2 should be okay. Running 4 Rebecca, it is your best combo piece with the 8 cost Gecko Moria. It basically grabs a 3 to 7 from the trash, which you have quite a lot of options to do. Then play up to 1 3 cost or less from your hand to the field, which you also have quite a lot of options as well. So you can so one of the things that I said you can be okay with dumping some of these cards with the brand new search would be like a Brook, which you can grab back. You can grab a Kobe back. You can also, if you have the Kobe or Brook or even this Hina in hand, once you've played out the Rebecca, you don't have to obviously grab it. You can just play it from hand using this ability and get some of the effects off there. The other thing is you can grab your Jack, which if Jack is milled or if Jack, somehow goes to the trash, you can just grab him again with this Rebecca. Then, of course, it wouldn't be a black deck without running a full play set of 8 cost Gecko Moria. I don't need to say really any more than that. However, if you are new to the channel or just new to One Piece in general, this is one of the most broken cards at the moment. Basically, what you do is on play, you play this, and you win the game. No, it's you choose up to 1 cost 4 or less and up to 1 cost 2 or less character from your trash, play one of them, and then play the remaining rested. So oftentimes you're going to see people play the Rebecca down, and then you might see like a Suru play, or maybe like a brand new brought back out for like a little bit of value. Then the Rebecca grabs something and then plays something from hand. So you can, play a lot of things, get a lot of good value from just playing a single Gecko Moria in the game. Running 2 Jacks, which I just touched on why Jack is decent here, but also we're running 2, and the problem with this is that maybe you want to bump it up to 3. I want to say that the 2 obs in this deck kind of... I feel like I want to run them at 3, however, there's not a lot of space overall, in my opinion. Jack is great because, well, it's really hard for black decks to remove. Really hard for just decks in general to remove, other than like swinging into it, or maybe like blue can just bottom deck it, of course. But this character costs +4, and that's why it's hard to remove. And in the activate main, you may rest this card, draw 1 card, and trash 1 card from your hand, then KO up to one of your opponent's cost 3 or lower characters. So it is a blue-black Sakazuki ability on a body that also can KO something 3 or less. So once again, if you are playing a Brook, or even if you're not playing Brook, you just want to use your leader ability to -1 to a 4-cost body that Doflamingo has played out, then you have this Jack. Jack will be your best friend in that matchup, being able to get rid of a body guaranteed pretty much every turn. So you want to see this card when you're going against Doflamingo, which will be a high represented deck overall. So you might want to bump this up to 3, but 2 should be okay to get you there. Running 4 Tashigi, it's a 2k counter, searchable because it's Navy, and it's basically a Suru except you rest to this body and then -2. So it is repeatable, however, people will try to attack into it, which you're okay with because it acts as a blocker at that point. So it's just another cost reduction into the deck that you can search out. Running 2 Hina, the 3 cost, 5,000 power body from starter deck 6. It's on play, give it to one of your opponent's characters -4 to their cost during this turn. Really great there. -4 is a huge cost reduction. Gets a lot of bodies within range of being able to KO stuff. So this plus maybe a Smoker ability can get an 8 cost KO'd with a Jack or a Kobe. There's plenty of other options as well. So Hina is, I think, a great card, and you don't really need to run it as more than 2 in my opinion because it doesn't have a counter. So there are times where you're kind of just sitting there with this dead card in hand. Of course, you could play it for the -4, but there are more efficient cards to play overall. And I think you want to have this in your trash instead because you can get it back out with the Rebecca. Then I'm running 4 of the new Sengoku. This is a 1-cost, 1000 power, 1k counter card. Now, this seems really strange at first, however, the effect is really powerful. It's an on-play. You may trash 2 black navy type cards from your hand. If your leader has the navy type, draw 3 cards. So this, you can just trash cards that you don't need at the moment, and you can potentially get them back. Of course, they have to be navy type cards, and you'll be able to draw 3 cards overall. So this is a great way to just increase your hand size, maybe dig a little bit deeper into the deck because maybe you don't have some of the pieces you need. Oftentimes, the Moria is something that you're desperately searching for if you don't find it in your opening hand, and this Sengoku can help you get there a little bit quicker. Now, the real reason that this deck is a lot more viable now is the new Tashigi. It's a 5-cost, 6000 power body, and it says on play, if your leader is Smoker, give up to one of your opponent's characters -4 cost for this turn. And then the activate main once per turn ability says if it is the turn that this character was played, place up to one of your opponent's cost 0 characters into the owner's trash. It doesn't KO it, it trashes it. So this is really great to be able to get rid of some of the more sticky characters like a 4-cost Borsalino. If you go against Magellan, if you're going like against a purple Luffy, for instance, and they play down a Magellan, this can just get rid of it and you don't have to minus Dawn. This will be able to answer a lot of things on board. It's a better Hina, in my opinion. Of course, the body is even better, 5 for 6000 power body and a 1k counter. Yeah, this card is absolutely just nuts in Smoker, and I think it's one of the reasons why Smoker is a lot more viable right now. So, of course, we're going to be running it at a full play set, and I think that if you're running it at less than that, you probably should reconsider because this is a really strong card for Smoker. And then finally, we're running 4 Ice Age. This is a 1-cost event that just says give up to one of your opponent's characters -5 cost during this turn, and so this will help you take care of some of the bigger bodies overall. Smoker doesn't really excel at taking care of multiple bodies in a turn. Smoker's really great at taking care of like one body a turn and kind of keeping the playing field more level in that sense. So it's not as good as Lucci because Lucci can take care of, you know, multiple bodies in a single turn. But I do say that Smoker is great at taking care of tall bodies. And this Ice Age really helps. Once again, it's Navy, so it is searchable with your brand new. And overall, I would not want to run less than this. The cost reduction in this deck, overall, you have a fair amount of cost reduction, but the Ice Age just really is the icing, unintended, on the cake there to make sure that you're able to take care of the tall bodies. But yeah, Smoker has been kind of making some waves recently. I think that it has performed decently in some tournaments. I think that the deck list is pretty synonymous across the board. There's a few things you could change here and there. Of course, like some of the ratios, maybe some extra cards that maybe I'm forgetting overall. I don't know if Kaido, the 9-cost Kaido that trashes something, is worth exploring, but I think that this deck list feels pretty good from what I've played. And I've tested this out quite a bit, and I think that we've landed on a spot where I'm pretty happy with. But overall, let's take it into the sim and still see how it does. All right, going against Magellan, this is not a meta deck. However, this might be a good test as far as to see how Smoker does against a non-meta deck, because really, Smoker's not really a meta deck either. And so this could be a nice little bar to see how Smoker does against a deck that's a little bit more fringe. But Magellan, if you're unfamiliar, says on your turn, whenever you minus Dawn, you gain 1000 power for that turn. So it's a good generic ability for purple. It's a 5-life leader, but most of the time you're looking to run Impel Down cards with Magellan overall. So this opening hand was great for me to keep because I have a Moria, I have an Isho, and I have a couple of plays in between. Usually I'm pretty liberal at taking life here, and that Jack is a great card to get because it can help get rid of a lot of bodies here. Now, I don't want their board to be too overwhelming, so this Mino Rhinoceros, I will try to take care of this turn, even though the on KO is pretty good for them, being able to draw 2. I think it's actually just like a filter, and so it's like draw 2, trash 2. So I think I'll just swing 5 here. And they'll likely take it, and then we'll play out the Suru and then play out the Brook to get rid of it. Of course, they're going to be able to filter, which does suck for me because it does make sure that they can see cards that they're, you know, they're getting rid of cards that they might be dead in their hand. Yeah, another Mino Rhinoceros and an Impel Down. Great cards for them to get rid of. Now, we're hoping that they don't drop a Magellan. That is going to be, like the 5-cost Magellan, that is going to be a nightmare for us to deal with. We can deal with one initially because we do have the Tashigi to be able to trash it. However, yeah, well, here it comes. As I predicted, a Magellan comes down, and this is fine because we can handle this turn. We need to see more Tashigis overall. I want to stay healthy, so I think it's fine to counter out with my Suru there for 2k. And this turn, we're just going to go ahead and swing the Brook to get the Magellan down to 1. We could have done it differently. We could have swung, 5 first, then swing the Brook. It doesn't really matter, to be quite honest. But we're going to swing 5. They take it, play the Tashigi down, get it down to 0, and then trash the Magellan. We don't have to minus Dawn because we're trashing. The Magellan effect is on KO minus 2 Dawn, which is awful for a lot of decks to have to deal with. Usually, Magellan sits there until 10 Dawn, so it's quite the pain for sure. This next turn, for them being at 6 Dawn, they might not have too many plays. They might play another Magellan. Who knows? Their hand is really fat right now, and I'm sure that they've seen another Magellan at this point. So they might play Magellan and then swing 7 because their leader ability gives them a plus 1,000 power. But we'll see. Overall, yeah. Oh gosh, here we go. Well, we don't have an answer to this one, which is really unfortunate, and it also ensures that we won't be able to play Jack this next turn, which really sucks for us. I can't counter out of a 7, and to be quite honest, there's no way for me to KO this Magellan. Well, efficiently. I could play an Ice Age, but I gotta be honest, I don't want to do that. I don't really think I have time to play Isho, so I'm going to just dump it because we do have a couple of other big bodies to play. We have the Jack and the Moria, which I think are more important to the game plan overall. So this turn, we'll just swing 5 and then play... Well, we'll swing 5 first. We'll swing it to Shigi after that, and then we'll play out the Sabo just to have a little bit of protection, maybe filter out the hand because we do have quite a few Ice Ages. We don't have a lot of counter in hand overall, which is not great for us. Of course, they take the 1. Well, actually, I'm surprised that they take the 5 from the leader. But the counter out of the Tashigi, which is fine. We'll get rid of a brand new and an Ice Age because, well, we don't need 2 Ice Ages and we don't need 2 brand news. So we'll make sure that we have 1-ofs for everything else. And this turn, maybe they play a 7-cost Kid, which would be unfortunate, but it would be good for us because we could probably KO it with an Ice Age, leader ability, and Brook Swing. We don't really want to see another Magellan because that is going to be okay. that feels awful. Geez, it feels like, I don't know, people that play Magellan and then multiple Magellans back to back, it just feels really awful. I don't know what to say about that. We'll block and give them a 1k. Now we have to deal with both of these bodies, which really is not fun at all. So I think we just swing 5. We just establish a Jack, in my opinion. I think we just get a big body down to be able to counter, or at least swing into some of their stuff. And then the following turn, we can probably deal with the both Magellans and be okay minusing a bunch of Dawn because we've already established some big bodies. So we're just going to use the Jack to cycle, get a little bit further into the deck. Once again, we don't need multiple brand news, especially if we can play them out with the Moria the following turn. This Jack also might... Oh my god, they had a 4th Magellan? That's insane. This guy is like playing like a terrorist over here. He has so many Magellans. It's not fun to play against. But, we'll be able to at least answer one of the Magellans. We're okay minusing Dawn the following turn because we don't have anything big to play after that. So hopefully we can draw into another like Moria or maybe a Sabo or another blocker at some point. But the idea here is that, well, we don't have to minus Dawn anymore because we saw that no more Magellans are played. Okay, they're playing X-Drake for us to trash a card. This guy just hates playing against people, doesn't he? He just doesn't want anyone to have fun. So he goes 7 to lead. I think we just have to take this one. He's going to be swinging probably 2 more 7s. So we probably should counter out of at least one of these and maybe use the block for the other one. Yeah, we counter out of this one because we can get the Rebecca back with the Moria this next turn. Let's just use the Sabo here to answer this. Isho is a good card for us to filter out, of course. I don't really think that we have too many options to play other than going like a value Moria. We can go Moria, Rebecca into brand new and maybe grab a 2k back from trash. Ideally, we could get rid of... Well... I guess we can just swing 5 is fine, minus the Magellan. Swing another 5, just get some cards out of hand. We can play Moria. The other idea, yeah, besides playing a brand new, we could go like Moria into Rebecca, into a Suru, into a Jack KO, and then get a 2k back from the Rebecca and filter out the hand. That's probably our best bet here. It's a pretty good filter. Being able to get rid of the Isho and draw into a Brook, pretty good overall. Of course, they do have 2 big bodies, or not too big, they're medium-sized bodies, but the Magellan's still a pain to deal with. I'd imagine they're probably going to swing pretty heavy here, like 777, depending on what they have. They also could play a Kaido this turn. So yeah, this is really just not fun to play against as a black deck because the only way to get rid of any of this stuff is to KO. And of course, this Magellan just negating, you know, good turns for us, preventing us from playing bigger stuff really sucks. The efficiency of our Dawn definitely goes down over time, but I think it's fine because we're getting to what is considered like late game stages. And so if you get rid of Magellans, you're not really hurting yourself too much. So yeah, swinging 7s. Another X-Drake comes down though. That is definitely hurtful for us. So yeah, 7, 7, and then 7. I think we can just counter out of this next one. And we could potentially push for game this next turn, but I don't know if that's wise. With 2 life and 4 in hand, kind of hard to tell what they do, especially with the Borsalino in hand. We should be okay. Because like if they are able to counter out and then they play a follow-up turn with like a Kaido, and we didn't take care of the board, we're probably going to lose for sure. So we're going to use the Brook, swing into the X-Drake. We're going to guarantee that this X-Drake goes down by swinging 7. I'm not guaranteeing it, of course. They could counter out, but I think it's going to be harder for them to do so. We'll use the Jack to get rid of the X-Drake, and then we'll swing 11 into the Magellan. We're okay at this point with it going. -2 Dawn, and then play out a Borsalino to pretty much guarantee that we're pretty safe. You know, if they swing in with a Kaido, it's not going to KO the Borsalino. We can at least block with the Borsalino, and then we can counter out of a 7 if they decide to do that with their leader. This is going to be a really hard turn for them. They had a great start, great momentum for like what is considered a fringe deck. Yeah, this is really strong for them. A 9-cost Linlin I don't think is going to be enough, to be quite honest. We'll take that hit, and I think can we push for game? I think we can. We're going to attempt to at least. So we'll go 7, which is guaranteed hit with Brook. I'm thinking if I just want to swing flat Moria and just see what they do, because that's obviously guaranteed hit. I think I want to swing another. Well, I'm doing some math here. Maybe like a 9 with this and just see if they counter out. If they counter out, then we play out the Borsalino and be safe. Otherwise, we just swing 10. And they didn't have it. So yeah, they came in hot. We were able to at least last long enough to take care of their Magellans and build up a pretty healthy board. All right, going against Marco, another leader that has gotten a little bit of a buff from the starter decks with the 7-cost Newgate that he gets. That opening hand was garbage, so we're going to mulligan to see if we can get something a little bit better. Of course, Smoker, I want to go second because we have a great going second curve. As you can see, we played a brand new turn 1, and we were able to find an Isho, which is great because we have a lot of options to play on 8 now. We have 2 Morias into an Isho, which ideally, if we go to 8 and they're at 6, we can play out the Isho, rip 2 cards from hand, and then follow up with a strong Moria play, rather than just playing out Moria outright. This turn, I'm not sure exactly what is the best play. Let's just swing 5 and see what they do here. And then we might be able to establish a Brook. And I think maybe establishing a Sengoku could be decent as well. Let's throw out the Brook to begin. Well, let's throw out the Sengoku first and see what our options are, and then play out the Brook, and then pass the turn. Getting a couple of Tashigis is really good here, because now we can answer whatever they play on this following turn, unless, of course, it is the new 5-cost Ace, which that will just subtract power if it's removed from the field, so it doesn't really effectively get rid of it. But it's still a good card to have regardless. Oh, this Thatch is also another one of those that they do get value from removing themselves from the field. So the Tashigi, I'm just going to give them the card draw because I don't want them to have too many bodies on the field. Let's use the Tashigi effect, which, by the way, this Tashigi effect is really great because it's not an on-play, it's an activate main for the turn that it is played, which synchronizes really well with your leader ability because you can put 1 Dawn on your leader and then subtract from the cost-reduced character and then buff your leader up and then get rid of the character afterward. So this Tashigi is really great here. Of course, they're able to draw a card off of the Thatch being removed from play. This following turn, well, Gravity Blade is pretty solid for them. I might want to counter out because, once again, I don't want to be too greedy in taking huge hand size. We're at 8, so we can play this Isho, and I think they're at 7, so let's see if they counter out. And if they counter out, this is really good for us because they'll be at 6. They'll get rid of a counter card from hand, and that will give us a better chance at hitting something really strong from their hand. So let's play out the Isho, and looks like we got a Sanji and a 7-cost Newgate with that Isho. That is incredibly hard to deal with the Marco, because that was probably their next play, was playing that 7-cost Newgate. So that kind of changes things up for them. That E-show is huge. That's why you always want to swing first and get them to 6 if you can, and then play out the E-show, as opposed to just playing out the E-show, because if we played out the E-show outright without them countering out first, we might have gotten the Jozu out of hand, but instead we guaranteed that there is another card, you know, a better chance of getting some bigger cards out of their hand. So this turn is not really great for them overall. Seeing that they're at 7, they might have another Newgate. Looks like they might, so let's see what they play out. It's an ace. Swinging for 8. I didn't expect that, so I think I have to counter out here, which is unfortunate. I should have just countered out the 7, which is going to be more efficient overall, but because I don't want to go down to 2, let's just try to get rid of, you know, let's just, I guess, get rid of the 2Ks from hand, and then try to get rid of this ace overall. It's going to be difficult, but I think we can. So we'll put 1 under our E-show, reduce the cost of this ace by 3. We can go Moria, Rebecca, Suru, get it down to 0, and then play out the Brook. Because we have a Brook in hand, we can grab a 2K instead. This will KO the ace, which all it does is minus 2,000 power. We will then swing, using our leader ability, swing 7 into 4, get rid of it, and then swing 10 into life. And now we have 2 big bodies, and we also have a Rebecca blocker, which is very nice here. Of course, Marco has been teching for a lot more of like power reduction overall, as opposed to, you know, just like building out a big board. Because I know that Marco builds a couple different ways. They can spam the board with like a bunch of 5 and 4 costs, and then eventually get to their late game and like spam out the Sanji. I was gonna say Sanji, and whatever other big body they like. But I don't know if this build is doing the huge cost reduction where they basically can answer most things on the board. We'll see what they play this turn though. I would imagine they're gonna play like a Sanji into some big body. Okay, so they have Crossfire. It looks like they do have a lot of tools to reduce the power of stuff. They might just be able to play... Oh, Marco. I was going to say like a Seaquake, but Marco works just as well. And whatever they swing here, we'll just block. Yeah, we'll block this one. I'm not sure what would be best. We could play Tashigi and just trash the Marco because it's not being KO'd. Because the Marco effect is if it's KO'd, they can pitch a counter event from their hand, or just like an event from their hand, and then revive it. But I want them to revive it so I can swing into it. Let's reduce it down to 3. We'll play out the Moria here. Moria will grab a Rebecca and a Suru. Oh, sorry, a brand new. We can then play out the Kobe from the trash, pitching the Jack because we really don't need it at this point. This will KO the Marco, and we didn't swing with our leader because we wanted to swing 6 into 6 and see what they do. They get rid of a Gravity Blade to revive it, then they can't counter out or decide not to counter out of the 6 into 6, and then we can swing Moria into life here. So that's a lot of pressure at them. They have no board established. They're at 1 life, and we have 2 Morias and a blocker. So good luck. Yeah, at that point, it's like really hard for them to come back. So yeah, they didn't see any Sanji. I don't know why I keep saying Sanji. Sanji, they did see 1, of course. We ripped it out of hand with E-show, but that's really unfortunate for them that they didn't see any more. But yeah, we played it really well, actually. Our curve was amazing. All right, Black Yellow Luffy. This is going to be an interesting one. It is, in my opinion, the best deck in the format. It has probably one of the best late games, and overall matchup spread is pretty decent. If you're piloting it correctly, you can win pretty much every matchup. And I think Black naturally struggles into the Black Yellow Luffy. So if you think Lucci was a hard matchup, I imagine Smoker is even more difficult. Of course, they go 5-5, which I think that's fine. I'm not going to get rid of this Garp because this Garp is going to allow me to use my leader ability. So I'm not going to swing into it. Because it is a 1 cost, I can just put 1 under my leader, and then my leader's a 7k attacker. I do establish the Borsalino here because they cannot get rid of it overall unless they have like a trigger in life. I think I can just counter out here. We'll do a Borsalino block plus a 1k instead of just giving him a 2k. And then this turn, I could play out to Tashigi and get rid of the Kuzan. Overall, though, I kind of want to hold on to my Tashigis. I'm glad that I have 2 in hand at this point, but I want to hold on to them because if they are playing things like Sabo, then being able to play the Tashigi and get rid of the Sabo that has a KO protection is really great overall. This following turn, we'll block and give him a 2k. Basically, we just want to stay as healthy as possible for as long as possible. And this turn, we're on 8. We have an Isho. We'll rip 2 cards from hand. They, with the Sabo ability that KOs something, trashed their top life, and it was a Moria, and then we played an Isho, and we ripped a Moria from hand. So that's 2 less Morias that we have to deal with overall. That is amazing for us. That helps us get into the late game and do a little bit better overall. So I think we can take a hit here. That is okay. We're not going to counter out of an 8, but we can at least block and then counter out with the 2k here. And they're playing this Fist Luffy, as some people call it. Let's go ahead and put 1 Dawn underneath Isho. I think we're just going to have to play the Tashigi. We'll swing 10 into 6. They're likely going to let that go. We'll play the Tashigi, get rid of this Luffy. This Luffy is a pain to deal with. It definitely allows them to do what they want to do. And we'll establish another blocker that cannot be KO'd. Now, the rest of our hand is pretty garbage. We have 3 of the new Sengokus, and that doesn't really do much here. Wow, they actually have a really good answer here. It's not looking good for us, to be quite honest. They were able to go Ice Age into Rocket Luffy and KO our Isho and swing 8. And we'll have to take that. And an Ice Age doesn't really do much for us, and we have not a lot of action in hand, so let's go ahead and just poke them down and kind of see what they do. They're greedy and they take the 7, so we'll swing 9 and see if they counter out of this one. They take the 9. Let's swing 7 and see if they counter out. They'll have to give us a bunch of cards here. They go 7, they counter out, and we'll go 9, and they have exactly enough to counter out, but wow, they decided that was game at that point. They quickly left, and I guess that's how you beat Black Yellow Luffy. Rip cards from hand and then poke them down, see if they give you cards. Very interesting. Finally, what is considered the best deck in the format? Don Quixote, Doflamingo. This deck has been, I think, terrorizing the East as far as like just the amount of decks that are topping. However, it is a brand new deck in the West, and so people are still figuring it out. There is a high turnout with play with Dofi into a lot of the tournaments over the past weekend where there's like some regionals and treasure cups, and the conversion rate was awful, but I think it's just because it's a new deck and people are kind of figuring it out overall. But I think Smoker, if you do draw hot, you can do okay into the Dofi, but it's a matter of just seeing some of the pieces that are very crucial for what we need. Our hand is really stacked right now, and it's unfortunate because I don't want to get puddinged. Because I have a Gecko Moria in hand, and I want to make sure that it stays there. We have a lot of 2Ks as well, which is really unfortunate. So I think this turn we'll just play out a Rebecca, grab the Jack, because that's definitely one of the pieces we need. And I think it's safe to throw out maybe like the Sengoku or the Hina and trash some cards from hand. Of course, that is a little bit risky because we do go up in hand size, which is something we do not necessarily want against a deck that runs pudding, but let's just hope that they don't have the pudding. If they play the pudding this turn, that's not really a great tempo play for them. Ultimately, they are not establishing a lot of bodies or threatening bodies in general. So I think what we can do is just hope for the best, which it looks like they're not going to play the pudding out. And whatever they throw at us this turn, I think it's safe to counter out. And then hopefully we can get a decent, solid play for the next turn, because we are going to be on 6 Dawn. And it's a little awkward. So I guess they're going to decide to swing Sengoku into brand new. I don't care. I really don't care. I imagine that they're probably doing this to play a bounce law, bounce the Sengoku back to hand, and then play the Sengoku again, get some good value there. That's totally fine. So this will allow us to counter out with a Rebecca, which is good for us. And we go down in hand size, perfect. And now they play out a Perona. Perona is good too. Any of these one-cost searchers are good for Smoker because we can use our leader ability. So we'll do exactly that. We'll use our leader ability on the Perona, -1, go up to 7 as a leader, and then swing into the rested Law. And I think, depending on what we draw this next turn, as of right now, yeah, playing out the Rebecca is probably our best bet here. So let's go ahead and just swing 8. I guess I'm thinking first, yeah, I don't know if I really... There's nothing really else I could do here. So let's just go swing 8 into the Law. They might counter out because they have a pretty big hand as well. And they might want to keep this body alive. But I feel like dropping 2 2Ks would be a bit much for them. So yeah, I think they decide to let it go. We'll grab the Hina. And honestly, I think it's better to just play this Hina out because it's a body that can contest the board as opposed to a brand new that might potentially add a card to hand. I think it's fine to keep the brand new as like counter power in hand instead. And the Hina, like I said, is good to contest the board. If they have any rested 5,000 power bodies, Hina's good there. And the next turn, I think it's fine for us to play out a Jack. If we can establish a Jack before the Moria, that's going to be really strong for us. So they go Jinbei into Hancock, which this is the power of Doflamingo, being able to cheat out 2 bodies a turn, plus also use leader ability and get another potential 2 if they are able to get a Jinbei off the top. But we hope for the best here. We hope that it's not a bounce law, because that's going to be awful for us to have to counter out of an 8k. It's not. It's a Weevil. I think we just block here. I think we could block here. We could also counter and keep our hand size low. I think, yeah, countering's actually probably fine. I don't know. It's questionable, but we do have a blocker as a backup here. We're going to use the Smoker ability to KO this Hancock, pitching out a Sengoku. I didn't pitch out the Jack because, you know, Jack is really good against Doflamingo, and maybe having 2 Jacks is not the worst thing in the world. So they counter out of the 5 to face. Let's go 6 to 6, and they'll likely counter out of this one because they want to keep their body alive. And the following turn, we can play another Jack. We can also play Moria. Moria might be a better play overall because Moria will establish good value and also have a big body that's hard for them to answer. They have a Red Rock. Now would probably be the turn to do it, but I don't think a lot of Dofis are running Red Rock. If they are, they're running like one of, and it's not always guaranteed to see it. So this turn, we're just hoping for the best as far as like we don't want multiple Jinbeis to come down. We do have, you know, 1, 2, 4. We have like +4 in counter. We had a blocker. I was going to say we have a blocker. We had a blocker until they played Gravity Blade and got rid of it, which that's fine. I think we can counter out of 2 of these attacks and then maybe take 1. Because they're probably going to go... If I were them, I'd probably go like 6, 6... yeah, 3 6s overall. That's not what they choose to do. They decided to go 5. I probably should have countered out of that one, to be quite honest, because that was an easy one to counter out of. But I decided to take both. Just because, like, at this point, we're guaranteed they're not going to be playing a Pudding. And so, seeing a little bit more options is fine. What we can do here is go and play out the Moria, I think, is probably our best bet. Moria will be able to grab... Well, we'll swing 8 into the Jinbei first, because we're using the leader ability on the Sengoku. So +2. So we're playing 8 into 5. That's a really... Yeah, they decided to pitch their 2 2Ks at this point. It is what it is. We got 2 cards out of hand. Get the Moria down on the field. Moria brings out Rebecca into a Suru. The Rebecca grabs a Tashigi 2K counter. We'll play out a Brook, because Brook will help us with our synergy with Jack, and then we can use the Jack to get rid of the Weevil, pitching the other Jack in hand. Now we have another Moria as a backup play, and we have a lot of counter in hand, and our hand is not really in a state to be puddinged, because we're at 6 cards, and that's not the best pudding in the world. Usually you want a pudding if they're at like 7 or more, and basically a pudding at this point just guarantees I lose 1 card, but their board, our board is like huge. Our board is really massive, especially if we have a Brook that can just like free swing, and, you know, reduce anything down to 1, or sorry, reduce anything by 1. So Jack is popping off at this point. It's really hard for them to recover. They have to be able to spit out multiple bodies. They do have the Red Rock. It's unfortunate that we pitched the other Jack. However, this is the beauty of Rebecca in that we can get back the Jack if we so choose. A bounce law is pretty good here, actually, being able to bounce this Rebecca back, so it doesn't guarantee that we can block for safety, so we're just going to have to counter out, which is fine because our play next turn is to go play Moria, play a Rebecca out of the trash, and go more of a value play. We didn't have a Rebecca in trash that turn anyway, so that way we can at least get it out. I think we should, well, 6 into 4, we're going to have to let that one go, unfortunately. This one is unfortunate for us because an Isho doesn't really do much at this point. They're at 5 cards in hand, so I think what we're going to end up doing is just go 7 into the Jinbei, hope that they let it go. If they don't, we'll swing Moria into the Jinbei, and then we can guarantee KO this law with a Moria, Rebecca, Suru into another Brook. So get the Brook back that they just KO'd. Which we are going to do here into Rebecca, Suru. Suru -2. Get it down to 1 cost, play out the Brook, another 1 cost, and then KO the 0 cost event, or 0 cost character. Now we have 2 Morias, a blocker, and a Brook, and we have an Isho as backup as well, but this is looking really rough for them. I think this is game. They swing 5. I could counter out, but I don't. I don't. And they play Kaido. Oh, okay. I don't have an answer to this Kaido, by the way, so I kind of just have to pressure them as best as I can. I don't know if I want to establish blockers, because if I establish blockers and I swing with my Morias, I'm down to 1Ks, and they could potentially go Gravity Blade to get rid of the blockers and then swing into my Morias. So we're just going to swing 5. We're going to swing 6. This will likely... I want them to get down to 6 cards in hand, and hopefully this Moria swing will be able to get them down. Well, they don't. They don't counter out of that, so they go to 9. So this one, hopefully, they can counter 3 cards out and be at 6. See what they do here. I'm just going to play an Isho and rip some cards from hand overall and see what we can get from their hand. But it's, you know, the probability of getting something good is pretty low. Especially with 10 cards. They didn't even counter out of that one. What the heck? All right, let's play the Isho and see what we get. Let's roll the will and see what roulette we get here. Oh, it's a Gravity Blade to get rid of the Brook. That's pretty good overall. We play Isho, we get 2 Boa blockers. That is insane. They probably were looking to establish both of those these next turn to have a little bit of safety net going into the final turns here. Yeah, wow, what a couple of rips. This Isho was really good here. They might have more, of course, but who knows? Yeah. Oh, wow, what did they say? Both my blockers trashed. That's a GG, I guess. Wow, that's that's pretty insane. Our Isho has really popped off for this video, at least. We got a Sanji into 7-cost Newgate against the Marco, and now we're getting 2 Boa blockers. That's really unfortunate for them that it ripped both of the only blockers they had. So, I mean, I don't want to just ignore them, so I'll go ahead and give them the unlucky. But they'll play out a Moria. Moria grabs a Jin, or they have a Jinbei, right? No, yeah, they had him Jinbei in hand. They went Moria. Moria grabs the Boa blocker. They play out a Jinbei to be able to get out 2 bodies that turn, and they can still get their leader ability off this turn as well. I think they just have to go at face. Swinging the Kaido first is smart. That's what they want to do to get cards out of my hand. I do have counter for it. However, I'm not going to give them the 2K T-Bone, because what we can do is we can use the T-Bone effect with Isho having 1 under the leader and be able to KO the Hancock, because it gets rid of a 2-cost or less. So we will be able to use our leader ability to pump ourselves up, and I think I should swing 9. I didn't do the math correctly. 10 is okay, like it's still fine, but should have done 9, 9, 10, 10 instead of 10, 9, 9, 10. But it's pretty hard for them to be able to counter out of all of these anyway. Yeah, it's guaranteed at this point. So we'll swing 10 and win the game. Yeah, this was, I mean, that Isho was MVP there, but obviously the Moria has put in work too. So it's just about stifling the opponent as best as possible, because like they're going to be able to spit out a lot of bodies. The Jack is going to be your best friend in these matchups against Dofi. So overall, Smoker, I think, is a very viable deck if you're looking for a semi-competitive leader to play for the rest of 8.5. We have about, at the point of this recording, another month until we hit OPO 9. So I would suggest, you know, putting some reps in with Smoker now, and maybe, you know, you could probably do okay. I think that it's going to struggle against decks like Lucci, because Lucci just removes things a lot better. However, I think Smoker does well against the other decks in the meta, just because, you know, black is a strong color in general, and you are playing black good stuff in this deck overall. So I'd say Smoker is probably a solid tier 2 deck. Maybe with the right pilot, even a tier 1. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think it's that good, but it is really solid. It's a good solid pickup. If you're tired of playing like Lucci, maybe you still want to play a version of Control and want to try something a little bit different. And also, Smoker's alt art here is, you know, pretty sick, I have to admit. But yeah, Smoker in a nutshell, I'd say it's a solid deck. Pick it up if you want to play something that is not Lucci and still is Control. As always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.